exodus of Griffey and Dunn are gone. You've got to have some veterans here to show the younger players, including Brandon Phillips, including Joey Votto, including guys like that who are your everyday very good players, how to play the game professionally. Scott Rowland is just the guy to do that.
He's in the lineup, and let's check the lineup for Hamilton, Ohio native Jim Tracy and the Colorado Rockies, who won last night's game 5-3. Seth Smith back in the leadoff spot. He'll be playing left field. He's in at 295. Clint Barmas, the shortstop turned second baseman, has had a great year. Todd Helton healthy again in the number 3 spot, followed by Brad Hopp. Troy Tulowitzki, he's been hot. The average for Tulowitzki up to 264. Ian Stewart. Carlos Gonzalez will be in center. Yorvi Torrealba's 3 for 3 against Bailey in his career. And Ibaldo Jimenez, the pitcher, batting in the number 9 spot. And on the mound for the Reds, the big lanky right-hander, the Texas native, Homer Bailey.
Well, forget about the overall numbers for Homer Bailey, because that doesn't really matter at this point. What matters is what he has done recently and what he will do from now to the end of the season. And recently he had a very good game, that against the Padres, a lone win the Reds had, and he got the win in that ball game. 7 innings of 3-run baseball, walked 1 batter, and that's a key for Homer Bailey, being able to get that 95-mile-an-hour heater over in the strike zone.
Smith digs in at 295. Back-to-back strikes called by Paul Schreiber, the home plate umpire. Paul Nart's down at first base. Joe West, the crew chief, is your second base umpire, and down at third, Eddie Rapuano. Throwing strikes, that's what Homer's goal is, get ahead of hitters. And so far 0-2 to this first batter with Barmas on deck, and Smith will step out. Smith last night started it all in the first inning. He had a base hit to center, and when the ball was bobbled by Lance Nix, only Nix's second error of the year, he went to second. A walk, a single. That started an inning where the Rockies scored twice. Not this time, though. He locks him up. A swing and a miss. Strikeout number 1 for Homer. Out number 1 here in the first inning. Here's your Ford defensive alignment for Cincinnati. The Reds come in 13th in the league in defense, 67 errors on the season. Sutton, Nix, and Gomes in the outfield. Scott Rowland, the 7-time Gold Glover, adds to this infield defense. Gonzalez, Phillips, Gold Glover last year, and of course Joey Votto over at first, and once again Ryan Hannigan behind the plate. Here's Barmas, Clint in at 257. 14 homers and 51 knocked in. Last night he had a walk in the first and an 0 for 4 night. For this former shortstop, who's made the transition brilliantly to second. Well, he's getting a round of applause from the Reds fans here. You want to see the big guy throw strikes. That's all he's throwing so far.
Well, you know, and that's a big confidence building thing. When you can come out in the first inning and transfer what you had in the bullpen onto the game mound, that's a big step for a pitcher.
Short hop by Rowland. That's the way the Gold Glover does it. Hit right on the button, and listen to the applause that Rowland gets.
Hey, Scott Rowland down there saying, hey, I don't mind if you test me, but does it have to be one of these all the time? That was a bullet, a sinking line drive that he went down on one knee to make sure he got his body in front of. Good leg action right there, and a nice short arm throw to first base. Joey Votto is going to appreciate those pegs coming in there chest high.
And look what he does. Like a catcher trying to block a ball in the dirt, he smothers it. So even if he doesn't catch it, it's in front of him, and he's got a chance to throw the runner out. I guess that's how you win 7 Gold Gloves, Chris.
Well, he ought to know.
He said, I can't wait to get my first ground ball. Well, it happened right off the bat. Scott Rowland gobbles that up, second out, and here's Todd Helton. Helton in at 321, 11 homers and 60 knocked in. Just as we talk about the veteran leadership that Scott Rowland can provide for the Reds, that's what number 17 provides for this Rockies team. It's a bunch of young players. This is the one holdover from the glory years for the Rockies. He's healthy again, and he's having an outstanding year. You look at all the major offensive numbers for the Rockies, and in the record book, Todd Helton's at the top of it. And you add to that Gold Glove caliber, a 2-time Gold Glove winner down at first. 2 balls, 1 strike. Todd last night singled in the first inning, had a 1 for 3 night and a couple of walks.
It was kind of an interesting at bat, that base hit that he had off of Justin Lear in the first inning. He got ahead 2-0 in the count. Lear threw him a fastball in the outer part of the plate. Lear thought that he was going to take that pitch. Helton took a base hit to left field on a 2-0 count. There was a day that he would not do that. He'd be trying to go yard, but he's a much more mature hitter at this point.
Saw it off into center field. Here comes Nix. He gets there. 1, 2, 3 for Homer. Thanks to Scott Rowland. No hits in the first. Rowland's due up 5th when we return. Spot. Drew Sutton leading off in left. Alex Gonzalez bats second. Then Joey Votto and Brandon Phillips went back-to-back with homers last night. Back-to-back again tonight. Rolling for the month of July. 287. He comes in overall at 320. Johnny Gomes, Lance Nix, Ryan Hannigan, and Homer Bailey. That's 1 through 9. And here's a guy who's been on a roll. Ubaldo Jimenez.
5 of the last 6 ball games. Quality starts for Jimenez. He's a good 6 or 7 inning pitcher. Another one of those ground ball type pitchers that the Colorado Rockies have put into their starting rotation, and it's paid off big dividends. But for him, look at only the 7 home runs that he has given up this year. That shows me that he's able to really keep that ball down. A Colorado Rockies starter having given up only 7 home runs. That must be a misprint, right? That's
rarefied air from the Mile High City air. Overall, don't let the record deceive you. 7-9, but his earned run average under 4 at 3.85. And what a manager will love, and Jim Tracy is one of them, as well as his pitching coach, Bobby Apodaca. He's pitched 7 innings pitched or more in 17 straight starts. So he's going to give you innings. Hit pretty good. Right center, heading to the wall. 1 hop off the wall. Sutton around first, will cruise into second with a 2-base hit. He got that up a little bit, and Sutton drills it into the alley. A leadoff double for Drew.
Drew Sutton getting a chance to play because Willie Taveras is sidelined with a bad wrist. And, you know, he's a guy that you would think maybe not a prototypical leadoff hitter, doesn't have anywhere near the speed that Taveras does, but he was used a lot in leadoff when he was in the minor leagues with the Astros. Of course, Sutton came over in exchange for Jeff Keppinger. And they want to take a look at this young man, see where he fits in the plans, and he gets it going with a double.
So Sutton's in scoring position. Here comes Alex Gonzalez. We've talked about the discrepancy for the Reds in the first inning. Reds pitching has given up a ton of runs, and they've been unable to score consistently in the first. So the little things important here, at the very least, get the ball to the right side, move the runner to third. Gonzalez in the number 2 spot, in at 197, 2 homers, 21 knocked in.
You know, that's easy for a lot of guys, but Alex Gonzalez's stroke is much more conducive to him pulling the ball than actually hitting it the other way.
He had a sacrifice fly and a run batted in last night. He shows bunt. That's ball 1. Alex peers down at Mark Berry in the third base coach's box, who rolls through some signs as usual. Billy Hatcher down in the first base box for the Reds. Joey Votto on deck. That'll get the runner over. Gonzalez Out at first. Good job by Alex. That's a sacrifice 1-4. He'll get some high fives as he gets to the corner of the bench, and we'll take a peek at our Ford defensive alignment for this Colorado Rockies team. It's a Rockies team that has gotten much better defensively. They're 6th in the league. Smith, Gonzalez, and Hop across the outfield. Stewart, Tulowitzki, Barmes, and Helton across the infield. And Yorvit Torbiabo will get the start behind the plate, catching Jimenez. That's your Ford defensive alignment. Here's Joey. Joey hit a tape measure home run last night, 426 feet to straightaway center, his 16th of the year. That brought the Reds to within 1, 3-2. Phillips back-to-back homer tied the game at 3. Overall, Votto at 340. The run batted in last night was his 50th of the season. And with runners in scoring position, he comes in at 347. He, Phillips, and Gomes, the 3 players over 300 with runners in scoring position for the Reds coming into tonight that are in the starting lineup.
Boy, a murmur around the ballpark after that last pitch. Jimenez, by the stadium radar gun, threw that pitch 100 miles per hour.
That'll get the run in. Ground ball out, a productive out. So 2 productive out for the Reds. So after the leadoff double by Sutton, the Reds get a run in and take a lead in the first inning, 1-0.
Boy, I'm amazed that they actually went on an 0-2 pitch to a breaking ball and really gave Joey Votto a chance to shorten his swing, just put the bat on it. That's a defensive swing right there, knowing that if he gets the ball on the ground to the right side of the infield, he gets a run in. Remember the previous pitch, Jimenez threw the ball in there at 100 miles an hour. But you'll take that if you get a shot at it.
Here's Brandon. So the run batted in, number 51 for Joey. Phillips leads the Reds with 69 runs batted in, stepping into the batter's box. Dial that one up about the same vicinity. He's got some movement too, doesn't he?
I'm not sure if they've got that radar gun juiced up a little bit tonight or what, or maybe this kid actually does have the arm that he's showing on the radar gun. I mean, Homer Bailey was throwing the ball on the gun at 97 and 98, so we've got a couple of flamethrowers out there tonight.
He's got strikeout capabilities. Jimenez 9th in the National League with 120 strikeouts this year. And he'll go deep into games. I mean, he has thrown at least 100 in pitches in 19 of his 21 starts this year, including 13 straight. And his pitch count usually in the manageable 105 to 110 count area. That's about Apodaca tries to shoot for. On deck, Scott Rowland awaiting his first at bat as a Cincinnati Red. Mom and Dad coming in from Canada, family and friends coming in from Indiana, the Great American Ballpark for this weekend series. Bounce it down to short. Tulowitzki, sidearm flip, that'll do it. But a leadoff double gets the Reds rolling. Votto's infield out gives Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. 7 have. Already has defensively with an outstanding play in the first inning. He smothered that. Instead of a base hit, it's an out by the 7-time Gold Glover. His offensive numbers speak for themselves as well, and his impact in the clubhouse immeasurable. You talk to the people in Philadelphia or St. Louis, and when we were in Toronto this year, Chris, it's talked to Cito Gaston. He said, number one, I'm seeing a healthy Scott Rowland this year. We saw him too when the Reds were there, but not only has he put up numbers average wise, but he also teaches young people how to play the game correctly. Here's the number 4 hitter, Brad Hopp. Hopp in his career 2 for 3 against Homer Bailey. He'll lead it off. Tulowitzki and Stewart will follow. And the one thing you notice, and you look at Jim Tracy's record since taking over. Tracy last night won his 600th career game as a manager since he took over from Clint Hurdle. And it's not just a manager. It's, the dynamics of a team come together. You have slumps, you have streaks, and Clint Hurdle in his tenure in Colorado did a fine job taking them to the World Series. In many cases helped them overachieve, but sometimes the message gets clouded, and just a change at the top will change things, and it did with this club. But Tracy looks at this club when he took it over, and it's homegrown, a lot of it. Barmes, Tulowitzki, Stewart in this lineup, all coming through the organization. You can add Dexter Fowler to that group too. There's a bouncer down to Joey. 1 away, and here comes the aforementioned Troy Tulowitzki.
A good job by Homer Bailey right there, coming back from a 3-0 count, made it 3-1, and then ran up and challenged Brad Hopp. He's got plenty of power. Hopp does with 15 home runs and 63 runs batted in, so you don't want to groove one to him, but when you throw as hard as Homer, it's awfully tough sometimes to center the ball. So when all else fails, rear back and let it fall, but throw it in the strike zone.
There's Troy in at 264. He's got 19 home runs and 50 knocked in. And when you say 19 home runs, that's even more impressive when you understand that 14 of those have come since the first week of June, when he was inserted back in the lineup and really began a big time tear. 7-game hitting streak as he steps to the plate here in the second. We talk a lot, Chris, about guys just being ball players, and that's basically what you have. Tulowitzki and Barmes both came up as shortstops. Both, you can look at tools. That's one side of it, but the other side of it is they just love to play the game. 1 ball, 1 strike. And they all love to hit in this ballpark. I mean, during batting practice yesterday and today, and remember the Rockies just came from New York. They were 1-3 in that 4-game series against the Mets in cavernous City Field. A lot of fly balls that wound up being warning track or even in front of the warning track there during batting practice were rocketing out of here. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Well, they've cured a lot of the problems in Coors Field by putting those baseballs in a humidor to make sure that they have more moisture content and they don't travel as far when you hit them. But you still don't erase the fact that the air is very thin out there, and it's a tough place to pitch because you don't get your breaking ball to break like you do here. And that's a big difference. Even though this is a small ballpark, when you get into the warm months of summer, now here we are in August and the temperature's probably in the 60s, so very unusual summer, but still in all, there is some humidity in the air. And if you're a pitcher that relies on a breaking ball, a slider, or a curveball, this is the kind of environment that can really help you.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Tulowitzki. Breaking ball just misses, will go full, and Josh Fogg, the guy who pitched for the Reds last year and is back in the bullpen with Colorado for his 2nd tour of duty, echoed that last night. And talking with him, he said, I'm back in the thin air. I've got to learn how to pitch different again. And that's really true. Some guys can. Other guys have a lot of difficulty in doing that. Full count to Tulowitzki. 3 for 3 in his career against Homer Bailey. And he'll reach on a walk. So Homer issues his first walk. And here comes Ian Stewart. Well, the Reds get it done with a run batted in this season. They've got 1 already tonight. That means another $25 from Shakely goes to the Reds Community Fund. Shakely, it's done. Joey Votto's ground ball gets the Reds on the board, leading 1-0. Here's Stewart, one of those homegrown products, who's taken over down at third. And Garrett Atkins has been the guy that he just penciled in down at third, but Atkins has had just a tough year from the start offensively. .298 coming into this year for his career, but he struggled all year long. So Stewart has taken over with the glove and the bat.
And interesting, Georgia, was Garrett Atkins, who was so prominent in potential trade talks with the Reds. The Reds have been looking for Atkins for a long time. Sometimes the trades you don't make are better than the ones you do make.
Tulowitzki inching off first. One out, one on. Bailey to the stretch. Runner not going. That's in the dirt. Talked to Ryan Hannigan before the game today. You know, he's been bothered by that bulging disc in his neck. Had a shot for it. And the big question, Chris, after you play is how do you feel the next day? And he said, not 100%. It's manageable, and he's in there. The Reds need his bat and his field generalship, with Ramon Hernandez still on the disabled list. 1 ball, no strikes. Tulowitzki has stolen 14. He's trails only Dexter Fowler in the stolen base numbers for the Rockies, so you can't forget about him. He has been caught 8 times. And if you don't check him over there, as Chris Spire flashes his signs to Hannigan. No pilfer or bag. 2 balls, no strikes.
And we saw a couple of quick-footed pitchers last night, Justin Lear and Aaron Cook. Good moves to first base. You can throw Homer Bailey in that mix. Feet are the biggest key right there in getting the ball over there. That and being able to short arm it from a right-handed pitcher's perspective. Good move, and that shortened up the lead a little bit.
Runner not going. Breaking ball is in there. 2-1. Down in the third base coach's box for the Rockies, and Stewart takes a peek at him. Is the veteran Rich Dower. What a player he was with the Orioles. Went to the World Series twice in '79 and '83. Talk about just a tough, hard-nosed ball player. And Glenn Allen Hill, good hitter in his day. The first base coach for Jim Tracy. Little bigger lead for Tulowitzki. He's not going. Takes a little off way out in front is Stewart. And it's 2-2.
Well, Homer has shown a variety of off-speed pitches already in this ball game here just the second inning. That's a curveball right there. Comes in around the mid-70s. He also has a slider, which he struck out Seth Smith to start the ball game on, and that little split finger pitch that he has not used yet. If he has, he's thrown it for a ball.
They got him. Well, they almost got him when he came back slowly earlier, and this time Homer gets him leaning, and the tag slapped down by Votto.
Wow, what a quick move by Homer Bailey, and it's not like Tulowitzki hadn't been warned. He had thrown over once earlier and nearly picked him off the first time. I'm not sure if that was called by Chris Spire on the bench or whether it was just something that Homer Bailey decided to do, but very quick move right there. That will get around the league and pronto.
Now, Chris, sometimes a pitcher and a catcher will feel it. Chris Spire, the way he played the game, is kind of like a vulture sensing some meat on a street. He saw a chance and he called for it, and they nail him. And add a strikeout to second for Bailey. Base runner erased. Reds lead at 1-0. Rolling due up, and we return. To lead off the bottom of the second, rolling in at 328 homers, 43 knocked in. Takes a fastball on the outside corner. Rolling. In more ways than one. With the bat, he's at 320. Not the power hitter that he once was. He's changed his swing, redirected his offense since the back and shoulder problems. But Chris, he addresses the ball and is right on the ball as well as we've seen in the last 3 years. We saw him up in Toronto. He was right on it.
He was right on it, George, defensively and offensively. It looked like his swing was as good as we've seen it in a long time.
When the Reds went to Toronto, he was midway through a batting streak that went to a career high 25 games for him. It started on the 8th of June, went till the 8th of July. That's the third longest in Blue Jay history and the third longest in the major leagues this year. Ryan Zimmerman had a 30-gamer. Ichiro had a 27-gamer.
I'll tell you what, he is facing a pitcher tonight, and the rest of the Reds the same way. Maybe some of the best stuff they will see all year long in this National League. Baldo Jimenez has thrown the fastball 100 miles an hour. He's got a curveball, a slider, a splitter, and a changeup. He'll also cut the fastball. I mean, 5+ pitches. There's your splitter.
You and I both had a chance to talk to Aaron Cook today after his performance last night, and he and Chris Ionnet, his catcher, said really he made only 2 mistakes last night. Both of them got hit. The 2 home runs, one by Votto, one by Phillips. Other than that, he was happy with it. All of his other pitches, and sometimes all it takes is 1 or 2 mistakes to make the difference in a ball game. And Roland's one who can feast on a mistake if he gets one. Here's a 2-2. Yes, missed it. Popped up high in the air, sky high. Stewart in foul territory will haul it in. Roland's retired, first out of the second inning. Our Geico quote of the day, and it comes from Bronson Arroyo talking about the addition of Scott Rolen. It would be hard for us to find a better third baseman in the game defensively. That tells me this organization isn't remotely close to throwing in the towel. And that was pretty much the way the Reds echoed things throughout the clubhouse yesterday and today with the addition of Scott Rolen. I mean, there's a bona fide future Hall of Famer who adds presence to your lineup, presence to your team defensively, and certainly presence offensively. Now, having said that, Chris, the other side of the coin is the Reds gave up some pretty good players. I mean, Edwin Encarnacion will be the third baseman up in Toronto. We wish him the best. He's grown up and matured so much as a Cincinnati Red. Here's a big swing by Johnny Gomes. That's big enough to be gone. Off the facade of the second deck. Johnny Gomes' 11th homer. There's a mistake that Gomes cashed in on. 2-0 Cincinnati.
Well, George, I got a question for you. Exactly what is hitting speed? To Johnny Gomes, it might be 100 miles an hour. This ball goes over the radar gun reading right out here. Check it out. 100 miles an hour, turned around just like that by Johnny Gomes, and it's a 2-0 ball game. This goes to show you, you kids at home who are lifting weights and running laps trying to get your arms strong and your body's in condition to be able to throw hard, might be better off trying to spot that fastball.
Movement, location, and then velocity, the keys to pitching, no doubt. He's got velocity. That was right smack down the middle. And not much movement on it, even at 100. Here's Lance. Nick's in at 237. 8 homers of his own and 24 knocked in. That slice foul and out of play behind home plate. Lance leads the Reds in doubles 20, and off the bench has had some productive at bats. He was the Reds' #1 pinch hitter until all the injuries put him into the lineup, starting his 2nd straight game in center field. Big swing on that one. Tardy at triple numbers, 100 miles an hour, and that is strikeout #1 and number 121 for Jimenez on the season. Over in the Reds PR department, Jamie Ramsey, checking out the charts, and they measure the home run by Johnny Gomes, 424 feet. That's given the Reds a 2-0 lead. Here's Hannigan in at .315, a homer and 8 knocked in. Homer Bailey, the pitcher, is on deck. Two runs, 2 hits for the Reds. 1 run scored in the epitome of little ball in the first. A double, a sacrifice, and a ground out. The other on a big blast from Johnny Gomes. Two balls, 1 strike. Two. Hannigan works it full. Helton will one-hand that, tap the bag, but the damage done. Johnny Gomes delivers his 11th homer, 424 feet worth. The Reds lead at 2-0. Auto and by Jeep. You talk, we listen. It's a new day. Have fun out there in your beep beep Jeep. Beep beep, get out of the way. Johnny Gomes has delivered his 11th homer. Add that to a ground out RBI by Joey Votto. Reds lead 2-0. Here's Carlos Gonzalez to lead it off in the third, followed by Yorvit Torrealba and Ubaldo Jimenez, the pitcher. When the year started, both Carlos and Dexter Fowler were regarded as long shots to be the center fielder, and they've really won the position. Fowler brings this team speed. Gonzalez playing well in a .236, couple of homers, 6 knocked in. Ryan Spilborg, that's a bouncer off the mound, and it might also hit the foot or the ankle of Homer. That'll go as a base hit. First hit for the Rockies to lead off the third.
Just taking it right back through the middle and talking to the hitting coach, Don Baylor, down there. Very, very high on this young man. He showed plenty of power last night in the home run he hit in the bleachers in right field. That was a scalding line drive, but boy, he's trying to hit the ball up the middle, and if this kid continues to come along the way he has, they really have another very good offensive force in this lineup.
And that comes from a darn good hitter in his own day, too. Donnie Baylor, the guy they call Groove, was as good an impact player. We talk about what Scott Rowland can do for the Reds. That's exactly what Don Baylor did every place he was. Baltimore, California, Minnesota, Boston, Oakland. He dialed it up in the regular season and dialed it up in the postseason too. Gave you great at bats. A bull of a man. Over 300 homers, nearly 300 stolen bases, and a good outfielder until he hurt his shoulder and really couldn't throw later in his career. Was mostly a designated hitter, but I think Chris, I mean, it's legendary his presence in a lineup, what he did for hitters, and he became one of the best hitting coaches in the game. And of course, then the manager in Colorado, the first manager they had from '93 through '98. Then on to Chicago, where he's the manager of the Cubs. There goes the runner, and it's fouled off on a hit and run.
Well, they're going to take their chances and try to push a running game of some kind against Homer Bailey. He's got a good quick move to first base, but he still remains very deliberate and slow when he has his full motion to the plate. Very rarely, if ever, do you see Homer mix in a slide step. But at this point where he is in his career, he is best advised to, keep his concentrations focused full time at the hitter. Try to shorten up the lead, but don't change your delivery, because you don't want to leave a ball out over the dish. Not even to the number 8 hitter.
Vitor Torbialba facing Bailey with Jimenez on deck. That's a strike. 1-2. Looped into right. Gomes is there. Johnny has it. The runner will hold one away, and here comes Jimenez. Jimenez this year not bad at .257. He's got 9 hits and 35 at bats, and a couple of runs batted in. 6 sacrifices as he peers down to Rich Dower, rolls through signs for him.
Those are the kind of numbers that indicate the kid can handle the bat a little bit.
Scott rolling in tight, expecting a bunt. Jimenez shows bunt. There goes the runner. He gets it down. It'll be a successful sacrifice, his 7th of the season. He can run a little bit too. 2-4 as you put out. So a runner in scoring position with 2 outs, and here comes Seth Smith.
And watch where Jimenez lays the bunt down, then watch also where he runs inside the line right there. That could have been called interference by the umpire, even though the ball didn't hit him. If you alter the throw because you're running on the wrong side of the line, you're in violation of the rule. Jimenez did not get called for it. The Reds got the out the old-fashioned way, and Homer Bailey's going to have to pitch with a man on second base.
Here's Smith, who struck out to start the game in the first inning. And many umpires will wait to see how the play unfolds. If it's no harm, nothing will be called. If the ball had plunked him in the back, and some catchers will even take the chance, because they'll just drill you in the back if they see you that far out of the box going down first. It's a chance you take, because if it's not called.
Right.
Strike one to Seth Smith.
You know what you often see Brandon Phillips do on that particular play, instead of going all the way to the bag, he knows he's got time down there, so he'll get the throw maybe 2 or 3 or 4 feet off of first base bag to make sure that he's got a good throwing lane from the pitcher or the catcher, whoever fields the bunt, and then he goes over and steps on the bag. You know, it's a very tough thing to do, try to throw over the runner with a little lob shot, because oftentimes it, you know, goes down the right field line and everything breaks loose.
In the air to center field, that'll stay in the park. Nick's cruising back. He squeezes it, so a leadoff base hit, no harm. To the bottom of 3 we go. Homer will lead it off. Select any sandwich on the everyday value menu and choose to make it a foot long or a 6-inch fresh value meal with chips and a drink for only $5. Here's Homer. Start the swing early. He's been between 95 and 100. But take your pick. He's got some giddy up.
And it's not just the straight velocity of his fastball. I mean, the fastball is fairly straight, because when you throw it 100, it really doesn't have a lot of time to move. But he's got really good other quality pitches. I mean, rarely do you see a young man like Jimenez have a big breaking ball like that, and a slider, and a changeup, and a splitter.
It's like Homer thought that was strike 3. Take another look. Full count, 3-2. The other part of velocity like that is you don't have much time to get out of the way. Slow down, take your time, says Jorvi Torrealba. Torrealba lays down the sign. Fastball right down the middle. That's strikeout number 2 for Jimenez. 1 away. Here comes Drew Sutton. Here's your Honda standings update going into play today. The Reds a season high 12 games under 500, 10 games back. The Cardinals half game lead over Chicago. Milwaukee 4.5 back. Houston 4.5 back. Going into play tonight. This afternoon, Atlanta beat the Dodgers 4-3. Your final score in the National League. Tonight, Chicago leads Florida 6-0 in the second. Cardinals lead Houston 1-0 in the third. Pittsburgh 3-2 over Washington. They're in the fourth, and Arizona leads the Mets 1-0 in the third. Tim Lincecum goes tonight. Philadelphia at San Francisco, and Milwaukee's at San Diego. How about Cliff Lee in his first start last night for Philadelphia? He was outstanding. Gave the Phillies a win over the Giants.
Yeah, I don't think it's much of a downgrade when you go from Roy Halladay that is, to Cliff Lee. I mean, after all, Cliff Lee is the reigning Cy Young Award winner, and a guy that got off to a bad start this year, yes, but played for a deplorable team, early in the year when the Indians weren't doing anything. But he's found his groove, and I'm not so sure when he finds his groove there are all that many good pitchers or better pitchers around either league. Pinpoint control.
He's a pitcher, not just a thrower, that's for sure. 2 balls, 2 strikes. That's a call, strike 3. Sutton, who doubled and scored in the first, strikes out. Back-to-back strikeouts, number 3 now for Jimenez.
Well, I'm surprised he only has 3 strikeouts here in the 3rd inning, because this guy has the kind of stuff that he's going to rack them up. Came into the ball game with 135 innings and 120 strikeouts. And he doesn't show you in his motion that he's really putting a whole lot of effort into it. I mean, he's very relaxed.
Little wrinkle on that, fouled off by Alex Gonzalez. Gonzalez sacrificed Sutton to 3rd in the first, and then Votto's ground ball drew in for the first run for the Reds. So the Indians trade Cliff Lee to Philadelphia, and that certainly stamps them as a favorite now in the National League. There's a pop up to the second baseman, Barmes. Gonzalez retired. 1, 2, 3. Alex will go back to second. Barmes will lead it off. Third base, the 3 players with the most Gold Gloves at third base. Actually, we can expand that to 4 players. We'll give you another option to add a 4th, and it'll have a red tint to it. Our Aflac trivia question of the night: the 3 players to win the most Gold Gloves at third base. That guy we've already talked about. If you've been listening, you know one of them. Scott Rowland, 7 Gold Gloves. Here's Clint Barmes, robbed of a hit on a Gold Glove play by Rowland his first time up. Barmes, Helton, and Hop due up here in the 4th inning. There's winning Gold Gloves, and then there's just out of this world spectacular defensive play. And everybody would agree that Ozzie Smith won Gold Gloves, but some of the plays he made were just out of this world, and that got him into the Hall of Fame. And certainly Brooks Robinson is in that category too. I mean, he had 16 Gold Gloves, and now the shots of American leaguers and the shots of National leaguers in the World Series, frustrating. Johnny Bench throwing his arms up. Same thing in the American League week after week. the human vacuum cleaner, Brooks Robinson. And there were other great third basemen too. I mean, Greg Nettles was as good as anybody. Even Aurelio Rodriguez was brilliant.
You know, you're looking at days gone by, George, and it seems like during the so-called steroid era that defense really took a second spot to offense. You know, when you were banging out, 15 hits and 9 runs a ball game, who cared whether you had a shortstop that could field? You wanted a guy that was going to hit 40 home runs. And I think now with, as baseball has gone beyond the performance-enhancing drug era, and that more emphasis is being put on defense. Younger players, defense, knowing that there aren't going to be all that many 60 home run a year hitters and guys that are hitting the way that they used to 10 years ago. So, you do what else you can do to help your ball club, which is play good D.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Barmes. Down to third. The third base coach for the Rockies was a brilliant player in his own right. That's Rich Dower. We were talking before the game today, and he said, I think baseball's turned the corner, and I like our club for a lot of reasons. And he alluded to the fact that the Rockies used to be the Blake Street Bombers. He said, we have some speed, we play defense, and he said, I think that's what baseball is going to get back to. And we've alluded to it too. We've talked about the lookout. That's way over everything, all the way to the backstop. But take steroids out of the mix, and will speed be more important? Not just base stealing, but overall speed, defensive speed, offensive speed. Play the game the way it used to be played. More of that in the future, huh?
I think there are more teams already grasping that.
2-2.
Well, I mean, if you think that pitching is your way to get to the postseason and to build a championship franchise, pitching and defense are so intertwined that you really can't have one without the other. And it's shown in this year in this ball club. I mean, oftentimes Reds pitchers were victimized by bad plays in the field, whether it was infield, whether it was outfield, whether it were errors or just non-plays. Those are the kind of little things that can add an extra base runner here and there, add an extra batter to the pitcher as far as pitch count goes. And things begin to unravel oftentimes after an error or two. And the Reds are not one of the better defending teams in the league, and it shows. And you wonder what happened first. Did the defense break down, or did the pitching break down?
2 balls, 2 strikes to Barmes, and they'll get together to try to find something to punch this guy out.
I mean, a good example last night with the Colorado Rockies. 2 tremendous plays turned in by their middle infielders. Tulowitzki made a great play, and Clint Barnes, the guy at the plate right here, made 2 tremendous plays at second base.
2-2. He got him up and in.
Baby.
Wow. 3 strikeouts for Homer.
Peas at the knees and smoke at the throat. Now he wants this low and away. He says, how about up and in instead?
First out of the 4th, and here comes Todd Helton, fly to center first time up. And Chris, you talk about what do you need to win in the postseason, and generally speaking, with the way the postseason is put together now, if you play the most number of games, you could play 19 games, and you got to win 11 of those 19 to be world champion after the season ends and you start postseason. There's a rocket shot into the right field corner. That'll roll all the way to the wall. Rounding first, going to second will be Helton, and he'll cruise in. It's another 30 double season for Todd Helton.
Well, the veteran knew exactly what was happening here. First pitch, slow breaking ball. Homer Bailey's going to try to sneak a fastball by him on the next pitch, and Helton he would have bet the farm that a fastball's coming right there, and he was ready for a good quick swing. Strokes the line drive down the right field line.
At that plateau again, his 30th double of the season, so he's in scoring position with 1 out, and here comes Brad Hopp. Hopp bounced to first time up. So if you get to the postseason, what do you need? You need at least 2 solid starters, and if you got 3, you're in great shape. And you need a closer, a dominant closer, and almost like the Reds had in 1990. If you have 3 guys you can rely upon in the bullpen, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, but George, if you look at the scores, and I haven't done a study on this, I'm sure it's been done, and ball clubs have it at their disposal. But if you look at the average score of a playoff game versus the average score of a regular season game, I mean, there are no middle relievers really that pitch very much in postseason, and there's never a fifth starter that even gets a sniff of a start in the postseason. In fact, that guy's usually left off the roster. So, you know, what you're looking at is exactly what you said. You know, your top 2 or 3 starters, you give them rest, travel days, and so on, and your closer and your setup guy. So you need, you know, 7th and 8th inning pitchers. You need your closer. You need 3 good starters.
Having said that, as Hop digs in, 1 ball and 1 strike. Bailey to the stretch. Helton off second. You think that's why the White Sox traded for Jake Peavy for 5 minor leaguers? He may not pitch until September.
They gave away, or they traded away, very good arms. I mean, you know, a lot of people are saying, well, why would the Reds give away 2 good arms and Renicky and the other young man for Scott Rowland? Well, the White Sox gave 5 of them away. I think 3 of them were close to being at the big league level.
And scouts that you and I both talked to today marveled at the quality that they got, that San Diego got in that deal, and scouts have also marveled at the quality that the Toronto Blue Jays got in the deal for Scott Rowland. Renicky and Stewart, Zach Stewart, could have been, if you know, you looked at next year, they could have been in the Reds bullpen and been integral parts of it. 2-1. But if you're the White Sox, are you gambling that if we make it to the postseason, you put Jake Peavy in my rotation in September and then in the postseason? That changes the dynamics, not just this year, but next year too.
Exactly. They've got him for next year, so they're not just renting a player for the last month or so of the season. But it's certainly, when they make it, or if they make it to the postseason, and you can throw Peavy out there, if he's anywhere like the Peavy we have seen, he'll certainly give them a major edge.
That did not hit him. It's a walk. So Bailey walks his second, and that puts runners at first and second with 1 out. And here comes Tulowitzki, who walked back in the 2nd inning.
Of course, for a ball team like the Reds, it's a completely different issue. You know, you're trying to build your team right now to get to the postseason. And that's the first step before. Now, if you're the Philadelphia Phillies, who are the defending champions, you make a trade like for Cliff Lee to get you not only to the postseason, but to get you deep into the playoffs.
Here's Tulowitzki. Walked his first time up, then was picked off. So runners at first and second, 1 out. The one thing that you look at for Homer Bailey here, and even though he predominantly is a fly ball pitcher, Tulowitzki is hit into 16 double plays. A double play here can get him out of this jam. Homer trying to coax number 17 from Tulowitzki. One ball, no strikes. Breaking ball hangs up there for a ball, and it's 2-0.
You're not going to get a ground ball when you're starting to throw it up there. He only has a couple of ground balls on the evening so far. Homer Bailey, who's primarily a fly ball pitcher, fly ball and strikeout pitcher.
Two on, 1 out. Missing again, and it's 3-0. Dusty looking for some kind of spark. He really said last night that he thought the game had turned, the momentum had turned after the homers by Votto and Phillips tied it, but that evaporated fast on the homers by the Rockies in the 8th, and they won at 5-3. That's a strike. Double play depth, that'll make its way into the outfield, and it will load the bases. Gonzalez pinched that extra 2 steps towards the bag, so he doesn't get to it. It's a base hit for Tulowitzki. That's an 8-game hitting streak for him, and the bases are loaded.
Now that's what double play def means. It doesn't mean that you shorten up a little bit towards home plate, but mostly the middle infielders, especially the one who's not going to leave his position, snugs a little bit closer to second base so they can get there in the turn of a double play. You know, Alex Gonzalez is just beyond our camera shown right there on the left side of the infield, but as soon as the ball is hit, you'll see that he's a lot closer to second base than he normally would be with nobody on, and that's why he can't get to that ball, a ball that finds a 5.5 hole and loads the bases.
So here's Stewart, who struck out his first time up in at 223. A double, a walk, and a single. They're loaded. Bailey delivers, and there's a strike. Would you have Homer go from the windup here, Chris?
I go wherever he's most comfortable.
Working from the stretch with the bases loaded and 1 out. Waves at that. 0-2.
And that's a good question, George, because a lot of pitching coaches will determine ahead of time what pitchers feel best out of the stretch, out of the full windup. Some pitchers will want to pitch out of the stretch and try to keep that guy at second base a little bit closer. In the event of a base hit, you've got a chance to throw him out. Out of the full windup, you're most assuredly you're going to get a run in from second base on a base hit. But the concentration has to be at the plate.
1 away, bases loaded. Here's the 0-2. Just got a piece of that. Try to sneak it in under the hands, and it stays no balls, 2 strikes. Stewart 0 for 3 last night. On the road trip, he has only 1 hit. He's 1 for 16 on this trip. The Rockies, of course, lost 3 or 4 to the Mets in New York. Hannigan rolls through the signs 3 times and said, let's start all over again. No mistakes here. 0-2.
Well, you've got a chance to expand the strike zone, but if you can get a guy out on an 0-2 pitch, that's the batting average in which, or that's the count at which a batting average is the lowest. So you really like to go right after him right here in case you miss, and then you miss again. Then you all of a sudden have a hitter's count with the bases loaded. Well, he struck him out his last time on a 2-2 count. He's got a 1-2 count right now, and he threw him a splitter. And it was a very good one. And you wonder after that high inside fastball if that's not the same process that Brian Hannigan would like to call right here.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Good job of hanging in there by Stewart as Bailey trying to put him away.
You know, you see that a lot of these Rocky hitters. I don't know whether it's Don Baylor's influence, because he, for a home run hitter, I mean, he was a big guy, but he had a very short swing. But he would learn to spoil some pitches. Baylor would, and these guys do shorten up with 2 strikes.
Don Baylor's philosophy: shorten up from the neck up, not just with the bat, but mentally. Just misses down and away, and it's 2-2. And that's even more important. And that came from the Ted Williams philosophy. I mean, he would talk about shortening up, and he'd ask a hitter, what do you mean by shortening up? And they'd wait for the hitter to respond, and the bottom line was, it's how you think. It's not necessarily choking up on the bat physically or whatever.
I'm not easy for him to do because he doesn't have a neck.
I saw him once get hit by a pitch in the neck, just dropped the bat and walked down to first, never flinched. Amazing. That's a shot in the right center field. That'll get at least 2 in. 1 run scores. It'll be first and third, and give Stewart credit. He battles after 0-2, battle back. He gets a base hit off Homer Bailey. knocks in 2. That gives him 50 runs batted in for the season, and this is a new ball game. We're tied at 2.
Well, he worked them 2 and 2, and it looks like that's one of the splitters right there. But he got it up, and you see it coming out of his hand. The 2 fingers are apart right there, the middle finger and the index finger, and he throws that ball. But look where it hangs up in the strike zone, just about waist high. If you can start that thigh high, by the time it gets to the plate, it's down below the knees. Boy, but it's good hitting around the waist, and Ian Stewart goes to town. You know, not a bad call by Hannigan or Homer Bailey, just a bad location of the pitch.
Now, very seldom can you question pitch selection. It's usually pitch location that ends up being the problem. Now 66 deliveries for Homer. We're here in the 4th inning.
Sounded more like a catcher every day.
But catchers, aren't they honorary members of the pitching unit?
Well, they are, except when they try to discard their blame for calling the wrong pitch. They say, well, we called the right pitch, but the pitcher didn't throw it where I wanted it.
But wait a minute. You have the final decision as to what pitch you throw.
And it's the execution.
That's right. That's why there are more catchers that are managers than pitchers.
Well, we'll have to save that conversation for another day.
I'm giving you your opening here. Here's Carlos Gonzalez, who singled in the 3rd. 1 ball to Gonzalez, 1st and 3rd for the Rockies.
You know, it's important now for Homer Bailey, and I hope that this was the message that Dick Pole delivered to him out on the mound, is that you really have to be even more aggressive now than you were earlier. Even though you've given up a couple of runs in this inning, you've hung a little breaking ball up there, you've walked a batter and given up 3 hits. Time to really get aggressive. Don't be tentative. Don't try to pick away at the edges. Come right after him. Your stuff is plenty good enough to get him out. They were calling for a balk out of the Rocky dugout, but very quickly Joe West indicated that he stepped off before he faked that throw to first base. Otherwise it would have been an obvious balk. Even a step off move is a fast one.
Yep. Boy, he's worked on that. Give Teddy Power credit. Much better than 3 years ago. Balls, 1 strike to Carlos Gonzalez.
Now they're wearing on him right now. They are the Rocky offense. This is pitch number 31 in this inning for Homer.
Out at the plate, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
That's a good place to pitch Gonzalez. He's a young guy with kind of a long swing, and every hit he has had, I think the pitch that he hit for a home run into the right field bleachers last night was out over the dish. It was a sinker that did not sink from David Weathers, and that ball kind of drifted out over the plate. I think you can get inside on this guy.
They want to come in. Missing inside, and will go full 3 and 2. Gonzalez earned his trip to the majors after he hit .340 in AAA to gain a chance to be part of this rotation in the outfield. He's had assists from all 3 outfield positions this year, and offensively clubbed his 2nd home run last night of the season. It came against the Reds. 3-2. Let's see if the runner goes from first. Runner is going. This went high in the air to left center field. Nix at the warning track will haul it in, tagging at 3rd, and scoring on the sacrifice fly will be the go-ahead run. So a sacrifice fly for Gonzalez, his 7th run batted in. Tulowitzki trots home, and it's 3-2.
Well, they tried to get inside on Gonzalez, but that ball drifts out over the plate, and because of that, he's able to put the sweet part of the bat right on it. Pretty good swing by Gonzalez on a mid-90s fastball, but he's able to drive it deep in the left center field to drive the run in.
So Tulowitzki, who singled through the hole to keep the inning alive, scores on the sacrifice fly, and the Rockies take the lead 3-2. Helton a double, Hop a walk, Tulowitzki a single, Stewart a single, and then the sacrifice fly from Gonzalez in this inning, and here comes Torrealba. Two. They got him leaning, but he gets back, just gets the hand in time. Bailey's already picked off one runner, Tulowitzki, back in the second. Got him, but one batter too late. Strikeout for Homer's his fourth. But the Rockies score 3 and lead it 3-2. At third base, that guy's on the list. Scott Rowland, who's won 7, and ahead of him 2 Hall of Famers, Brooks Robinson with 16, and a native of Dayton, Michael Jack Schmidt. And there is the rest of the list, which includes Buddy Bell. Of course, the Bell family, so much a part of Reds baseball. Buddy now with the Chicago White Sox organization, and he's in town this weekend. In fact, he may be coming to the ballpark tonight. And Buddy's son David, now manager in the Reds organization, and congratulations to David. He's going to be managing Peoria in the Arizona Fall League this year. That's a plum assignment and a stepping stone. Just a baseball guy.
It is. Oh, you're not kidding about that. You manage all summer long in Double-A. You don't get enough of it. You go and do the Arizona Fall League. That's why they say the old, the most overused motto in the minor leagues is you gotta love it. Every time you board the bus for a 16-hour bus ride, every time you sit through a rain-delayed doubleheader in the middle of nowhere, knowing you've got a long bus ride that night, a Fleabag hotel, you gotta love it.
There's Joey. He bounced out with a runner at third in the first. That plated the first run for the Reds. Cincinnati led 1-0. Johnny Gomes' homer in the second made it 2-0. The Rockies scored 3, now lead it 3-2. Votto leads it off in the 4th inning. Hey, Chris, of all the guys, I remember sitting in spring training this year talking to Terry Francona about who he learned from, and he played for some outstanding managers. He said, I never learned more than when I was with Buddy Bell. And that goes, there's a dribbler down to third. Stewart has it. Votto retired, 1 away. And you look at his managerial record. He managed here in Colorado, for instance. But you look at wherever he'd been, every place he went, he took over a bad team. He never really had a good team. I think if you took Buddy Bell and put him on a good team, or gave him enough time and enough resources to put a team together, I mean, there's nobody brighter with baseball intellect that I've been around than Buddy Bell.
Well, he certainly knows his game of baseball. One of the best teammates I ever played with. In fact, I was lucky enough to play with him twice, once in Texas and once here in Cincinnati. But when you're getting your first managerial opportunity, you don't always say, no, I think I'll wait and take another one. And I mean, there are some guys that have done that. Obviously, Willie Randolph turned down the job here in Cincinnati. But for the most part, when you get a shot to be a manager, you're going to take it. And the quality of the team or the quality of the minor league system is secondary. You're thinking about getting at the helm and seeing what you can do. Then you find out the reality of the fact is that your team can't play at the major league level, and you got nobody in the minors that can help you.
As Sparky always said, good players make good managers.
Yep.
He'll be the first to tell you he wouldn't have gotten to the Hall of Fame if it wasn't for the Big Red Machine players or the likes of Alan Trammell and Lou Whitaker and Kirk Gibson in Detroit. Sure, you add to that quotient, but good players make Hall of Fame managers. 2 balls, 1 strike to Brandon, who bounced out first time up. That's a shot through the middle, a base hit. Phillips has a base hit, 1 out, 1 on, and here comes Scott Rowland. Hey, don't forget, see this beautiful new Toyota Tundra out in the outfield. If a Reds player hits the Tundra or the Tundra sign during tonight's game, Katie Kaczynski of Cincinnati will win it. Register for your chance to win during an upcoming game at your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. Joey Votto just missed that a couple of weeks ago. Maybe someday. Here's Rowland. Hit a sky-high pop-up in his first at-bat as a Red. Brandon down at first, chased back to the bag by Jimenez. Phillips on the season, 17 stolen bases. He's been caught 7 times. Heading towards, at the very least, another 2020 season and possibly a 30-30 year. Big hole on the right side, and Rowland very adept at taking advantage of a hole like that. In the air to center field. Tried to go to the right side, got under it, and this one skied to Gonzalez, and there's your second out of the inning. So Brandon back to first, and here comes Johnny Gomes. He's provided the biggest jolt of the night for the Reds. His 11th homer with 1 out in the second that gave the Reds a 2-0 lead. American League scoreboard. White Sox beat the Yankees today 14-4. Tonight Boston leads Baltimore 1-0 in the 4th. Anaheim 6, Minnesota 4 in the 4th inning. Detroit leads Cleveland 2-1 in the 6th. Seattle leads Texas 3-0 in the 1st. The other afternoon game, Tampa Bay beat Kansas City 7-1. Corner for a strike, 1-1.
Now staying away from Gomes this time, it looks like Jimenez is. Nice looking breaking ball on the corner. I'll tell you what, I cannot tell you how impressive his stuff is. I mean, it's hard to see on TV, folks, but I mean, when you've got a kid throwing as hard as he does with the kind of breaking action that his breaking balls have, I mean, this is some of the best stuff that they will see all year long.
The Dominican native didn't exactly come out of the woodwork this year. He had a strong year last year. He led the Rockies in games started. He had 34 starts, had 170 plus strikeouts last year, and an earned run average of under 4. So he impressed last year.
But what you really like about him is it looks like he has a repeatable delivery, and he doesn't look like he's giving you 100% on every delivery. Looks like he's nice and smooth.
Swing and a miss. Gomes retired with Phillips running. For the final out of the inning, here's strikeout number 4 for Jimenez. He gets Johnny Gomes. The Rockies maintain a 3-2 lead. AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. AT&T, your world delivered. Great highlights of the first 4 innings of tonight's encounter. We go to the 5th. Homer Bailey back to work. Here's Seth Smith following Jimenez, the pitcher, and then Barmes. Ubaldo sacrificed successfully in the 3rd inning. Up for the 2nd time. He muscles this one to the right side. Phillips has it. And there's one away.
Hey, Reds fans, for great tasting food and family fun, pick up JTM Philly Kits, burgers, or delicious barbecue from your favorite grocer. JTM Food, family fun.
One away, and here comes Smith. Struck out and flied out. Three runs, 4 hits for the Rockies, 2 runs, 3 hits for the Reds. That slapped the other way and out of play.
George, a good time to wish a happy 60th anniversary to a very special couple in attendance tonight here at the ball game. They live in Russia. Actually, that would be Russia, Ohio. Paul and Rose Cordinier, and they are celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary tonight. They brought their 5 kids with them, and probably some grandkids, and maybe even some great grandkids. But we wish the family happy anniversary and many more days here at Great American Ballpark.
Great to have you at the park, and great to have you as Reds fans. By the way, we want to say a happy 95th birthday also to Klein Moses, one of our oldest and most loyal watchers and fans of Reds baseball. Born back in 1914 on Hurricane Creek in West Virginia in a log cabin, no electric or running water. Now living outside of Winchester, Virginia, a great Reds fan. Happy birthday. Comes from the family. Janet and the family send their best, their love, from the daughter Janet and husband Dan Likens. This one hit a ton to right, but it'll settle down about 15 rows deep, and that's a long gone wallop by Seth Smith. That's a big bomb, Chris. That's heading back as the fans throw it in, but that's Smith's 9th homer.
Tell you what, he gives you a lot of power from that leadoff spot. A former quarterback at Ole Miss gets another splitter, it looks like. Maybe that was a breaking ball, but it was up above the waist, and you see him wasted into the portal and the bleachers out in the sun deck in right field.
They got the market on college quarterbacks, huh? Helton and Smith each. Helton, the outstanding quarterback at Tennessee, home run number 9, run batted in number 29 for Seth.
If you look up and down their roster, they've got a lot of players that played college ball out west, out in California, UC Berkeley, Southern California area.
Nix warning track, got it. Clint Barmers gave that a ride. Lance Nix tracks it down a step in front of the warning track. Hey, help select the next Reds Hall of Famer now through September the 2nd. Be part of the 2010 Reds Hall of Fame fan vote. Sponsored by CincinnatiFavorites.com. Pick up a ballot at the ballpark at participating Skyline Chili, or log on to Reds.com/Hall of Fame and vote today.
Of course, they also recruit and draft very heavily down the southeast. Todd Helton and, of course, Seth Smith from Ole Miss. Helton not from Ole Miss, of course, he's from Tennessee.
Todd fly to center and started everything in the 4th with a double to right.
Now, they don't have anybody down there in Hurricane Creek that can play, do they?
And hopefully down in Hurricane Creek they do have water, running water now.
Oh, they do. It just happens to be in the stream, the creek out behind the cabin.
The way the rain's been coming this year is probably true.
It was a creek, now it's a river.
Bounce it down to first. Votto delivers to Bailey. Inning over, but not before Seth Smith delivers his 9th homer. Colorado leads at 4-2.
he struck out his first time. And let's take a look at a little comparison between Johnny Gomes on your left. This was the home run swing that he had. And look at the difference, the stride length. And then the stride length we'll show you after this pitch with Lance Nix, who really got way wide with his stride in a strikeout in the first inning. That is really wide. That is nice and compact. And that is a K. And that's a home run. So sometimes it's a little better to be concise, compact, even as a hitter. The less stride you have, the easier it is to keep your head still and you stay back on the ball a little bit. And that's one thing the Lance Nix has done very well in batting practice, in simulated games, and sometimes in the game. But you get that adrenaline going and you want to drive out at the ball.
Loop to left, long run for Smith, and he hauls it in. And oh, by the way, you're talking about not facing an 85-mile-an-hour fastball. It's a 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
Well, yeah, and you know what? It's all about adrenaline because you really want to drive through the ball. And sometimes, though, if you can keep your feet a little closer together, keep less lower body into it and more hands, you're going to be able to deliver just as much bat speed. And Johnny Gomes showed that when he turned around that 100-mile-an-hour fastball for a home run back in the second inning.
Chris, you talk about it very often as it regards pitching, but the philosophy is very similar. The less moving parts you have in a pitching mechanics, the better chance of being able to control where you throw the ball. And the less moving parts you have in a hitting approach, your chances of hitting are better too.
I think you could correspond that to just about any sport there is out there.
I wasn't going to bring up your golf, but if you want to.
I got a lot of excess motion there.
Here's Hannigan.
The first time I heard, we talked about, the Hall of Fame last night of Robin Roberts, and, don't want to keep bringing Robin up except he's such a great role model. But that was the first time I ever heard from a pitching coach, less is better. He had such a compact delivery, very straightforward delivery. And I was, in college, like most college pitchers, they're all over the place. You got big deliveries, one arm's going one way, one leg's going another way. And it's not until you get a few years in pro ball where you get a lot of innings under your belt that you really figure out that all of that is superfluous movement. It really doesn't do anything for you. It certainly doesn't distract the hitter, and it doesn't give you any more stuff. So little by little, you see a lot of kids in the minor leagues with big motions. By the time they get to the major leagues, if they're lucky enough to do so, they become much more compact and much more repeatable.
One thing that impresses you about this young man is that everything he throws just is nice and easy. He doesn't seem like to muscle up at all.
He really stays over the rubber very well.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Hannigan, who bounced to first time up. Sidearms it to first, and Helton gloves it. 1-3 is the put out, 2 away. Homer Bailey coming to the plate.
Take another look at the motion of Ubaldo Jimenez coming right at you with this one. Nice and delivered over the mound. Good weight transfer. And look at the direction that he takes. He is not across his body one bit. He is directly in line with where he's throwing the baseball. That's strong over the rubber right there, and not too long of a stride. And the other thing that I like to point out, he doesn't have a real stiff front leg when he lands. He has a firm front leg, but he doesn't stiffen it out to the point where it's going to jar him when he lands. We'll show you a little close-up of that too. I think it's worth noting.
Here's Homer, struck out first time up. Strike 1 to the Reds pitcher.
This is what I was talking about. Watch his front leg right here when it lands. Good long stride towards home plate. But when it lands, he's got a little bend in it right there. Not a straight angle like that. And I think that's very important for him to be able to get out over that leg, but not so stiff that it jars his motion and then puts extra pressure on his arm.
1 ball, 2 strikes to the Reds pitcher, Homer Bailey. Make it 5 strikeouts for Ubaldo Jimenez. 1, 2, 3, 5th. We're heading to the 6th.
today. And yesterday, General Manager Walt Jocketty and Dusty Baker both said that one of the reasons they made the trade, they need veteran leadership on and off the field. So I flat out asked Scott Rowland, are you the guy that can provide this?
Well, we'll see. I mean, you earn respect. You're not just granted respect for anything. I don't believe so. If you're genuine as to who you are and the way you go about your business, and I always think leading by example is the best way to go. And like I said, I'm going to go out and try to conduct myself as a professional and do the best I can every day on and off the field.
For a guy like that, leading by example certainly is the best way. And I'm in the third base camera well right here. He was the first one on the field running to his position. And guys, he does have a sense of humor. He's from Jasper, Indiana. He was asked how long it takes to drive here. He said about 2.5, 3 hours. And a lot of his friends and family are excited. He said, I got a lot of friends, good southern Indiana boys. And if there's a spike in beer sales here at the ballpark, you know why. So he's got a sense of humor.
You're not kidding. He's got a lot going for him, and in my career, JD, he's one of the most impressive individuals I've ever covered, not just as a baseball player but as a man. He just is a first-class person, and he fits in with Reds tradition. You can talk about numbers, sure, but the Reds, and you talk about the greatest players that have played in a Cincinnati uniform, you can add his name to the list just by the way he carries himself. On the field, off the field, first class.
I don't need the guy to be all-world, even an all-star, lead the league in anything. I just want some of the other players on this Reds ball club to adopt his preparation strategy, to adopt his work habits, and to understand what it's like to go out and grind it out on a professional basis on a day-by-day basis. I mean, that's the way you last a long time in the major leagues. I mean, the Reds have a lot of guys out in that bullpen right now, and David Weathers and Arthur Rhodes and Francisco Cordero, who have all done that throughout their career. And this is, the one guy that they now have as an everyday player who does the same thing, leads by example. And that's good enough for me. I don't care whether he hits 300 or drives in 100 runs or not. It would be great if he has some stellar offensive years for the Reds, but I want him out there, and I want him to show everybody else what leadership is all about.
Brad Hop inside out, so base hit to left. Here's Tulowitzki showing bunt. It's foul. He'll come back and try it again. Strike one to Tulowitzki, who walked and singled. And yes, a manager and a coaching staff, and for that matter a general manager, will set the tenor of any organization, of any team. But basically teams are led by players. It's peer pressure, and if you have a predominance of gamers, if you have a predominance of people like the Big Red Machiners who really didn't need anybody telling them what to do because they knew how to play the game, then you're going to produce. It's a far more valuable lesson if one of your teammates calls you out than if a coach or a manager calls you out for something that you did or didn't do. Bailey to the stretch, Hop off first.
And it would not surprise me at all to see Walt Jocketty go out and continue to get another older, veteran, professional type player to be on this ball club.
We just left Los Angeles, and Joe Torre was talking about how he turned the Yankees around, and that meant he had Paul O'Neill, Tino Martinez, Scott Brocious, Derek Jeter. I mean, that was the nucleus of what he had, and other people filled in as the years went on. And he did the same. You and I were talking about it up in the broadcast booth in Los Angeles. No, Mark Loretta is not the starting shortstop. Doug Minkiewicz wasn't a starting player. Brad Ausmus wasn't a starting catcher, but the acquisition of those three helped that ball club come together. It's a completely different clubhouse. So the little things, and go back to in the Reds division, Houston Astros. Why were they so solid for so many years? Brad Ausmus, Craig Biggio, Jeff Bagwell. That nucleus of leadership, and that's what Walt Jocketty did in St. Louis, and with Tony La Russa, of course, too. And that's what Dusty Baker and Walt Jocketty are trying to do here. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Tulowitzki. Stretched his hitting streak to 8 straight with a base hit his last time up. That one just misses. Having said that, you have to have people that know how to play the game the right way and want to learn. And that's what you have in Jay Bruce, Joey Votto, Ryan Hannigan, go down the list. Players like that.
Well, they stand to benefit.
Sure. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Did he get him? Full count 3-2. Nobody out. See if they send Hop with Tulowitzki at the plate. He's going. That's hit right where Phillips was. Into right center field. Rounding third. They're going to send him. The relay throw will not be made. And sending the runner with the second baseman going to cover the bag is picture perfect for Troy Tulowitzki, who drills a single in the spot that Brandon Phillips was. It results in a run.
You know, if this is not a hit and run, it's a ground ball double play. There's no question about that. An easy 4-6-3 to start the inning off. But instead, that ball that is hit very sharply right where Phillips was will end up scoring Brad Hopp all the way from first base. How about that? Boy, you pull the right buttons and switches, and if your manager is sitting in that Rocky dugout and Jim Tracy right now, you're saying, yep, you know, sometimes you do the right thing and you get lucky on top of it. A double in the gap scores a run from first.
5-2, the Rockies with the lead. And here comes Stewart. The Rockies have done a lot more of that of late. And you're right, Chris. Part of it is what the manager calls for, and the other part of it is execution. Tulowitzki's been red hot. 2 more hits tonight, a single and a double. An 8-game hitting streak, and he delivers.
Well, you can see that the Rockies are really taking the game right to the Reds. I mean, this is their style of play. They are not a great base stealing team. I mean, Brad Hopp only has 1 stolen base, so you'd love to get a runner in motion somehow, but the chance of him stealing even against Homer Bailey isn't all that great. So what do? You put the hit and run on, and you have a guy that executes it perfectly. You get a little bit of luck and you pick up a run. Now you have no double play situation, a man on second base, and now you're looking to add on and pile on.
So Tulowitzki in scoring position, still nobody out. Daniel Ray Herrera up and loosening in the bullpen for the Reds. Here's a pop-up in the infield. Phillips calling. Brandon has it. First out. Tulowitzki holds at second. Don't forget, tonight's Mega Million jackpot is now up to $84 million. Buy a ticket today. You could be a winner in the Ohio lottery. The Mega Million jackpot up to $84 million.
And he's got a lot of pitches already. Homer Bailey does a lot of that based on, I don't know, more than 35 pitches back in that 4th inning. So he's right at the 100 mark, and that will be enough for him and Dusty Baker as he comes out to the mound to make a pitching change.
So Homer has allowed 7 hits and 5 runs. Time for our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. You're watching Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
He got a base hit, and then the Rockies just took advantage of those opportunities. A sacrifice fly, a base hit, and all of a sudden they score 3 runs, and what you had was a 2-run lead is gone. And I think he pressed a little bit, gave up a home run to Seth Smith, a deep one when he got the ball up. His command was just not there like it was his last time out. And when you pitch against a good offensive ball club, that will show.
So here comes Carlos Gonzalez to face the new pitcher for the Reds. It's Daniel Ray Herrera, from the tallest Reds pitcher to the shortest Reds pitcher. Daniel Ray comes in for his 46th appearance of the season. Gonzalez, a single and a sacrifice fly. His sacrifice fly in the 4th made it a 3-2 ball game.
And from the flamethrower to the cunny thumber.
He's a flamethrower, just gets there a little longer. Takes a little longer to get there. Doesn't make any difference how you do it, it's getting it done. And back in May, remember, he had 4 strikeouts and 3 innings of work. Sometimes you do it with the screwball, sometimes you do it with the breaking ball, and sometimes you do it with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. He pitched twice in the series against San Diego. On Thursday, pitched an inning and a walk. On Tuesday, pitched an inning and a strikeout. He's been so durable for the Reds. Comes in with an earned run average of 2.81. Waves at that. Strikeout for Daniel Ray. Second out of the inning.
Now, he's awfully tough on left-handers. Daniel Ray Herrera is. Gets a good breaking ball right there. Starts it middle away, and then, boy, a little different swing that time from Carlos Gonzalez. Then when he sees a fastball on the outer corner, he sees something slow moving away from him, and that's the old equalizer.
Can't believe it. That little guy just struck me out.
Believe it? Come on up again.
Believe it, right?
He will convince you eventually.
How many times is a hitter going back to the dugout after facing Daniel Ray all these years?
Well, you know, what's even funnier than that, George, is what hitters will face him for the first time, and the first pitch they'll take him because, you know, they'll take a pitch because they want to size him up and get the speed and so on, and they'll kind of smirk. And we've seen it time and time again, and then only to find out later on he's got a couple of pitches you haven't seen before. They're going to walk him here to try to get out of the inning with the pitcher coming up.
You wore those brown and yellow unis in San Diego, and Randy Jones would do that to a few people, wouldn't he?
You know, Randy Jones was so good at that. He pitched 276 innings in 1976 when he won the Cy Young Award, and I don't think he threw a pitch over 78 miles an hour that year. In fact, he was so good against right-handers that Pete Rose, a switch hitter, decided to go up and bat against him left-handed.
That's right.
And then Rose found out he had a new pitch he had never seen before, a slider. Never wasted it on him when he was batting right-handed.
I remember when Tom Browning spoke to Reds pitchers when Dave Miley was running the minor league system. Miley asked him to speak to all the Reds pitchers. He got them all together. He said, I don't know what I'm going to say to them. And he worried about it the night before. All the Reds pitchers jammed into the one room in Sarasota. Here's a fly ball into left. Sutton has it, but not before a double by Tulowitzki gives the Rockies a 5-2 lead. We'll talk about that more when we return. First shot at him, a rocket shot, a tough hop, and the 7-time Gold Glove winner, Scott Rowland, showed you why, Chris.
Well, picking it right there, that's not an easy chance at all. Goes down like a hockey goalie to block it. But he does pick it cleanly, coming up throwing a strike to first base. I hope we see a whole lot of that.
Coors Light Freeze Can brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. Rolling in the Reds looking for runs as he sits next to Jay Bruce. And you have a feeling those two will link up pretty good in the coming months and years. There's Drew Sutton. He'll lead it off. Top of the order for the Reds. Sutton, Gonzalez, and Joey Votto due up. Just to finish the thought on Tom Browning. So Browning got all the pitchers together and he went around the room. Here's some guys 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", and he had them all raise their hands and say what was the top out of their fastball. This one says 94, this one says 95, this one says 96, and Tom Browning's response was, I threw a perfect game throwing 85 miles an hour. That's all you needed to say, huh?
Well, you need to spot it.
Mr. Perfect, Tom Browning.
Yeah, but that said, George, you know, for every chance a guy like Justin Lear gets at pitching in the major leagues, he topped out maybe at a high 80s last night, has to really pitch in order to get guys out. But for every chance he gets, a guy like Homer Bailey, who is a 98-mile-an-hour pitcher, is going to get 10. And that's the same way for Tom Browning. For every chance that Tom Browning got, and of course he made good on his chance, a 20-game winner in his rookie year. But when for every chance he gets, a hard thrower who, you know, is generally perceived as having a higher ceiling is going to get a lot more chances.
Left field, right at Hop. He's got it, one away. Sutton doubled in the first, scored on a ground out by Votto, struck out in the third. There's a fly ball out. There's Alex Gonzalez, a sacrifice and a pop-up 0 for 1. The high draft picks, or those players that are labeled with great tools, usually get more chances. And obviously those that can pop the radar gun will get more chances as pitchers. You can't teach somebody to throw it faster. You can teach somebody maybe location and the mental part of the game, but if you've got somebody that can throw 100 miles an hour, you keep thinking we'll get them to figure it out. 2 away, and here comes Votto. Hey kids, get your very own Jay Bruce mesh jersey at the game tomorrow. Arrive at the ballpark early with your friends and families. The first 10,000 kids in attendance will receive a number 32 Jay Bruce mesh jersey thanks to Bob Evans. Great seats still available by calling 381-REDS or visit reds.com. Towards the hole, and it'll sneak its way through. Votto rounds first, and he'll settle for a base hit. Even though the third baseman was pulled towards the hole and the shortstop was pulled there too, Joey bangs this one through for a base hit.
It looks like Joey Votto has gone up there his last 2 times thinking, I'm going to stay back on the ball, I'm going to hit it the other way. And maybe looking for a breaking ball instead of a fastball to hit off of Jimenez. And that's exactly what it is, a breaking ball. He inside outs it. He hits it between the third baseman and the shortstop, and they kind of boot it between themselves, and he ends up with a base hit. A nice long one by Brandon Phillips right here will make this ball game a little more interesting.
Here's Brandon, bounce to short and single, 1 for 2. Two outs for the Reds here in the 6th. 5 runs, 7 hits for Colorado. That was only the 4th hit for the Reds. For Cincinnati, a double by Sutton in the first. He later scored on a ground out. A homer by Johnny Gomes in the second. The Reds led 2-0. A base hit by Phillips in the 4th, and that hit by Votto. Those are the only safeties that the Reds have. Throw 95, 96, 97. Your breaking ball dials it up at 85. That's not bad.
It is, but you know what the problem with that is? It puts 85-mile-an-hour stress on your elbow. And those hard throwers are ones that are more susceptible to the old arm injury, especially the elbow.
Got it. So the Reds will strand a runner in the 6th. Going to the 7th, top of the order due up, 5-2 Colorado. Off Homer Bailey. His base hit by Ian Stewart ties the game at 2 as he knocks 2 in. Big shot by Carlos Gonzalez. A sacrifice fly makes it 3-2, and then a Seth Smith homer in the 5th inning, his 9th of the year, gives the Rockies a 4-2 lead. You can add to that a base hit the other way, a double by Troy Tulowitzki that chased home Brad Hopp, who was running from first, and it's 5-2. That's the numbers that the Reds face right now as Daniel Ray Herrera is in relief of Homer. Homer went 5 1/3, 7 hits, 5 runs, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, and 100 pitches. Herrera back to work as we head to the 7th inning, top of the order. Here's Seth Smith. Smith's homer, his 9th of the year. He's 1 for 3. That's his only hit. Final of the series tomorrow. Bronson Arroyo will get the start, looking for his 11th win against Jason Marquis. He's had a brilliant start. Marquis headed to the All-Star game in St. Louis this past month. He comes in 12-7, an ERA of 3.47. Been bothered by a blister on the middle finger of his pitching hand of late, but he's finally gotten that under control. Do you ever have blister problems at all?
Sure. I think every pitcher has it one way or another. And it's funny because, you know, you'll pitch for a period of a few months, nothing will happen. All of a sudden, one game you'll throw the ball differently for one reason or another. All of a sudden, you come up with a blister. Sometimes it's a blood blister. Sometimes it's just the kind where you push it against a fingernail and it just hurts every time you throw it. And of course, every old trainer that ever was working down in the minor leagues back in the old days had a cure for a blister.
Pine tar, formaldehyde,
yeah, pickle juice.
Pickle juice.
Some wanted to treat it from the inside out.
That was with 80 proof or 90 proof?
Both.
Swing and a miss. That's another strikeout for Daniel Ray. His 2nd strikeout. 1 away in the 7th.
No smiles out of Seth Smith that time, who hit a home run his last time up. Could not solve the off-speed offerings right there of Daniel Herrera. Nice looking breaking ball.
One away. Here's Clint Barmes. Robbed of a hit on a nice play by Scott Rowland in the 1st. Struck out in the 4th and lined to center in the 5th inning. The Reds were there in 2005 on that day in Denver when Barmes hit a home run, and really he was heading to the All-Star break and maybe heading to the All-Star game, and really he was the odds-on favorite to be the Rookie of the Year in 2005. The Reds left town in Denver. That night he was taken on. Barmes gets hit on the back of the leg and he'll head down to first. Barmes was lugging a load of deer meat up the steps of his apartment and fell and broke the collarbone. That sidetracked him, not just for that year, that gets him on the calf, but really it was a couple of years before he's back at 100%. I mean, initially there was a story he did it by dropping groceries going up the steps, and we eventually found out the true story. But
well, wait a minute now. Groceries mean different things for different people. I know a whole bunch of folks down in my area that deer meat is groceries.
I think frozen deer meat weighs a little bit more than your normal brown bag of cans and Rice Krispies. And it was that guy's deer meat, Todd Helton's deer meat, that he was carrying up the stairs. A gift from Helton. No balls, one strike.
Here I shot it, but you take it.
Yeah.
Dress it out, haul it back, process it. If you have a little sausage or jerky when you're done, I'll take some of that.
That was good as the Jeff Kent one, washing his car and falling down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No balls, 2 strikes to Helton with Barmes down on first. Carlos Fisher up and loosening in the bullpen. You look at that guy's career numbers, Chris, and I mean, he's had amazing individual seasons, but for his career, a 328 career average. He's got over 300 home runs, over 1,100 runs batted in. And by the time it's all said and done, he'll be on the Hall of Fame ballot.
Yes.
And he's conducted himself. I mean, in addition to that, he's been a brilliant defender. A couple of Gold Gloves, and maybe the best in baseball at picking the ball out of the dirt. Drill, but foul.
Well, he's made an adjustment here in this at bat against Daniel Herrera. You saw that maybe on that last pitch, kind of a secondary step, got his foot down, began to swing, pulled it back, and then adjusted to the real slow offering right there. Watch him kind of adjust to this, seeing how slow it is. He's ready for a fastball now, puts his foot down, and now he's going to wait, and then pull it.
This year he picked up his 2,000th hit, and there's a liner caught by Votto. Will turn it into 2. That's one of those situations where holding the runner helps the Reds. Coming off the bag, Votto does it the way Helton would do it. He snares this, turns it into 2. Now time for the 7th inning stretch presented by Cincinnati Bell. onto the internet. Watch every out-of-market Reds game live. For more details, visit Reds.com, where baseball is always on. Reds need some runs. They trail at 5-2 heading to the bottom of 7. Here's Scott Rowland, a pop-up and a fly ball out 0 for 2 in his first game as a Red. Johnny Gomes and Lance Nix due to follow. The Reds got a run in the first on a double by Drew Sutton, a sacrifice by Gonzalez, and a ground out by Votto. They got another one in the second on a one-out homer by Johnny Gomes, 424 feet off the facade of the upper deck and left. His 11th of the year, and that's been it. Reds haven't scored since the second.
You know, George, not everybody out there thinks that this Scott Rowland for Encarnacion and 2 pitchers is all that great of a deal. And one of the reasons why is that the stat that we see right here called BABIP, which is batting average of balls in play. And this year for Scott Rowland, he's hitting .347 every time he puts a ball in play. His career number is down around .314. But you see his batting average this year is much higher than his career average because of that. It seems like this year he's hitting in better luck. Balls are falling in. Of course, if you've watched him all year long, maybe he's hitting the ball harder this year. And that's the reason that they're falling in. But he has had only 1 year in his major league career in which he's batted over .300. That was in 2004 as a member of the St. Louis Cardinals.
By the way, he did hit .320 for the Toronto Blue Jays with 8 homers and 43 knocked in. And even though there is interleague play now, he starts from scratch coming over to the National League. His numbers aren't transferred from the American League to the National League.
But with the batting average we showed you this year, obviously was all that numbers that he compiled as a member of the Blue Jays.
Here's Johnny. He drilled his 11th homer back in the second, then he struck out in the fourth.
You know, it's amazing with all the different statistics, and ball clubs are right on it. I mean, every team has a team, every organization has a team of young, very smart, statistically minded interns that are just whiling away the hours in the bowels of the stadium, going through computer tapes, looking at different stats for different ways, so that when the general manager wants to evaluate talent, he's able to get what he hears from his scouts who see the flesh and blood of the player, and also what the background is as far as the numbers and the statistics, and you kind of blend those together.
The best organizations are ones that do blend. I mean, there are some that weigh too heavily on the statistical evaluation. There are other old line organizations that don't, in years past, haven't relied enough on them. The ones that do it the best are the ones that find a way to blend it. Foul back, 1 ball, 2 strikes to Gomes.
And unfortunately for those organizations that really overuse the stats during the steroid era, boy, they could be skewed big time. And they're stuck with some contracts now that they wish they had not offered.
Did he check it? That's a swing and a miss. Second out, and this young man on the mound just keeps rolling along. That's a strikeout, his 6th strikeout of the night. That gives him 127 for the season. He's in the top 10 in strikeouts in the league, and continues his brilliance tonight. The Reds have only 4 hits and 2 runs. Here's Lance Nix, a strikeout victim and a fly ball out.
Boy, it doesn't get a whole lot easier tomorrow when, as we've talked about earlier, the Reds face Jason Marquis, tied for the league lead in wins with 12. He's not a strikeout artist by any means. In fact, he only has about half the strikeouts that Jimenez has, but he's a guy that gets it done with a lot of ground balls, and he works very quickly. Not going to be an easy day tomorrow at the yard for the Reds, trying to take one from the Rockies. They can't come back tonight.
Bronson Arroyo will go for Cincinnati tomorrow. He comes in 10-10. We'll be on the air with Reds Live at 12:30. And the Cubs will come to town Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then a travel day off to San Francisco are the Reds. Here are the numbers for Ubaldo Jimenez. 93 pitches here in the 7th inning with 2 outs. Homer Bailey, 100 pitches in 5 1/3 innings, 7 hits and 5 runs allowed.
Boy, he is impressive.
Man, 7 strikeouts on the night. Ooh, wow. Ubaldo, big time tonight. across the Roebling Bridge to downtown Cincinnati, where the Reds are searching for some runs. Daniel Ray Herrera will hang in there. He'll deal to this left-hander, Brad Hopp. Then Tulowitzki and Stewart due up. Hopp 1 for 2 and a walk. He started the rally in the 6th. Singled and then was off and running when Tulowitzki banged a base hit through the hole vacated by Brandon Phillips. He scored all the way from first to make it 5-2. Another impressive outing by Daniel Ray Herrera. That's a shot into center field. Nicks over to cut it off, and the second hit of the night for Brad Hopp, a leadoff hit here in the 8th inning. And don't forget, you can catch Bearcats Classics and relive last year's Big East Championship season by watching a great game from 2008. It's Monday at noon on your home for the Bearcats, Fox Sports Ohio. The game against Pittsburgh. It'll be Monday at noon on Fox Sports Ohio. Out comes Dusty, and after Herrera deals with the left-hander with Tulowitzki coming up, Dusty will double switch. Coming into the game will be Vladimir Valentin. Creation Museum Faith Day presented by Prasco. Stick around after the game for a special post-game concert by 2009 Dub-winning Artist of the Year Stephen Curtis Chapman. Get your tickets now, 381-REDS, or visit reds.com/Faith Day. Here's Carlos Fisher to take over on the double switch. Valentin enters the game in right. And here comes Troy Tulowitzki. Tulowitzki walked his first time up, was picked off. Stretched his hitting streak to 8 straight with a single in the 4th that kept the rally going, and he later scored on a sacrifice fly. And then he doubled in a run in the 6th inning. So officially he's 2 for 2.
Now you see why Dusty Baker went to the bullpen. Carlos Fisher very tough this year on right-handers, a 172 batting average versus left-handers that have hit him pretty handily. Has yet to give up a long ball.
Chasing that, no balls and 2 strikes. Stop by Ryan Hannigan. all the way into the far corner of the left-handed batter's box, and that would have put the runner in scoring position easily.
Well, he really started to move his whole body over there, and then he realized, I'm not going to get over there in time, and he kind of caught that funny. Actually would have preferred to turn his glove backhanded, but as you start to get your glove down to block it and try to get your body over there in time, that ball was so wide he couldn't do it. So he looked down and look what I found.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Did he go? Yes, he did. That's a call strike 3 in any event. Even before he completed his swing, called strike 3 by the home plate umpire Paul Schreiber. Strikeout for Fisher.
Good looking breaking ball right here for Carlos Fisher. Great location right on the corner right there. Not a whole lot of break, but just enough of a downward motion, a little depth on it that he takes care of a very tough Rocky hitter.
So 1 out, 1 on, and here comes Stewart. Stewart struck out, singled in 2 in the 4th, and then popped up. Homer Bailey threw the first 3. Had a 1-2-3 first, aided by a fine defensive play by Scott Rowland. In the second, he walked Tulowitzki but picked him off, so had a 1-2-3 second. In the third, gave up a base hit, but got out of that inning. And then in the 4th, after he struck out Barmes, Helton doubled, Hop walked, Tulowitzki singled, Stewart singled, and Stewart's hit really turned the inning around. That'll hit the dirt. The throw to second will be wide, but Phillips is there to haul it in. So it'll be a wild pitch that'll get the runner Hop to second. And really, it was Stewart's at bat that was the key to that inning. The base hit plated 2 with the bases loaded, and that tied the game at 2. Then Gonzalez, a sacrifice fly on a 3-2 pitch, gave the Rockies a 3-2 lead that they have not relinquished. Your report card on Homer tonight: 5 1/3 innings, 7 hits, 5 runs, 4 strikeouts, and 2 walks.
Well, the 2 walks indicate that he really wasn't all that wild, but he was wild inside the strike zone, and he gave up some hits when he really could not afford it. But he only had 1 bad inning as far as I'm concerned. That was the 4th, when he became a little tentative. Something to build on, no doubt about it. Not as good as his last time out against the Padres. This is a better team than the Padres. The Rockies are, obviously. But you keep running Homer Bailey out there, and you're going to need him to pitch well in this rotation when this team can contend.
2 balls, 1 strike. That's fouled, and that becomes even more of a factor with the word today. We speculated yesterday, but it became official today. If you joined us late, Edinson Volquez is scheduled to have surgery on Monday. Right elbow surgery. He's been out since the first week of June. After you saw the video we showed you yesterday, they cut short his simulated game session. Talked to him before the game today, Chris. I think he's finally come to the realization that it's got to be done. Let's get it done, and let's start the rehab.
Yeah, and I think there was some speculation right from the get-go, George. From what I understand, the MRI showed that there were some partial tears in his elbow, and they probably gave him, you know, a choice. And he decided, I'm going to wait and see what happens here, see if we can rehab it, see if I can pitch through it for a while. And as it turns out, he can't do that. And, you know, for a guy that's really never had any major arm problems before, this is a shocker to him. But when you're talking about arm surgery now, we're not talking about cleaning that bone chip. We're talking about ligament replacement surgery, Tommy John surgery. You're looking at a year for Edinson Volquez at the earliest. So hopefully he's got good blood and will cure fast.
3 balls, 2 strikes. That's foul down the first base line. So it means a lengthy rehab for Edinson Volquez, and realistically, you don't expect him back next year. You hope for him to be a factor the year after. I mean, he could be back next year, but realistically, you expect him to be back where he will be Whether that's at where he is now or maybe even a little better. It's happened before. But it takes you a full 12 months. Swing and a miss. Stewart retired. That's back-to-back strikeouts for Carlos Fisher.
Boy, Fisher is on top of his game tonight. Good breaking ball to put away Tulowitzki. The left-handed hitting Stewart goes up there, and he goes by way of a sinking fastball. Nice little sanker there.
Here's Gonzalez, single, sacrifice fly, and struck out. And Christian, on the other side of the deal for Scott Rowland, and they will walk Gonzalez intentionally with first base open, is you look at the Reds' payroll right now and where they stand right now, and you're talking about basically Scott Rowland. And yes, the Reds did get money back from the Toronto Blue Jays. The reports anywhere from $5 to $6
million,
$7 million.
And also remember that Scott Rowland is being paid by the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yep.
I think they're still on the hook for $4 million of that bonus that he originally signed, which I'm not sure how it's structured, deferred, or what, but they're paying some of his salary. The Blue Jays are paying some of his salary, and the Reds are going to pick up the remainder. So, you know, yes, he's a big ticket ball player, but the Reds aren't eating the entire amount of money. That's one reason why they had to put Zach Stewart in the deal in order to be able to get some of that cash back from the Blue Jays. In fact, if you read the Toronto papers, you know, I know the Reds didn't want to give up those pitchers, but the Toronto papers are playing it like that's the best that J.P. Ricciardi could do, the GM for the Blue Jays, because Scott Rowland essentially demanded a trade.
Yep.
So under tough circumstances, you know, the GMs work something out.
Popped up, Votto over foul territory. I mean, made no mistake about it. The deal probably would not have been made. J.P. Ricciardi said no deal until he called back, and that came after a call from Scott Rowland to J.P. Ricciardi. Reds need some runs going to work bottom of tonight. Here's a dandy, a rocket shot off the bat of Todd Helton, a leaping stab by Joey Votto that was turned into a double play. Nice play by Joey Votto. That was the play that ended the 7th inning after Barmers was hit by a pitch and was on at first. Great play by Joey Votto, our John Morrell hot dog play of the day. There are the numbers: 5 runs, 8 hits, 6 left on base for Colorado, 2 runs, 4 hits, and only 2 left on for Cincinnati. As we go to the bottom of the 8th inning, Ryan Hannigan will lead it off. Following Hannigan, it'll be Ballantine in the number 9 spot, the pitcher spot. So after Carlos Fisher closed out the inning, the book closed on Daniel Ray Herrera, an inning and 2/3, 1 hit, 2 strikeouts, and 1 walk. No runs allowed. Here's Hannigan, who bounced out on a 3-2 pitch and then bounced back to the pitcher 0 for 2. And yes, it is August, and we say thank you to our faithful one, John Browdy. He has delivered, as he usually does, the 1st of August, the new Cincinnati Bengals media guide, which he spends countless hours putting together. The Bengals due to open their preseason schedule in 2 weeks on August the 14th. There's a bouncer by Hannigan down the right field line. He'll only get 1 out of it because Hop was playing towards the line, and he's there to track it down. So a base hit by Hannigan. He's 1 for 3, leadoff batter on in the 8th.
It kind of freezes the defense right there. Looks to left and hits the right. Boy, does he let the ball travel deep on him before he makes contact, and he gets the benefit of that ball going right down the line past the first baseman Helton. The Reds have something going. 3 runs down. They could use a score right here to close the gap.
And the Rockies have something going in the bullpen. Action up for the first time as Vladimir Valentin comes to the plate.
Now, the left-hander is Joe Beimel. The right-hander is Rafael Benzicourt. We saw him last night. Beimel just joined the club today, right?
And Betancourt just joined them last week. So 2 guys new to the bullpen. Beimel, veteran left-hander. Reds fans have seen him in Pittsburgh. And Betancourt, the Reds fans have seen a lot of him with the Indians. Let's see if the Reds can get something going on the 99th pitch delivered of the night from Ubaldo Jimenez. Valentin, you saw those numbers. He's been up and down for 3 years with the Seattle Mariners. They had used all his options, designated for assignment, and the Reds picking him up this past week. He's got some power. He's a 20 home run guy in the minor leagues and sporadic playing time in the major leagues. Acquired in exchange for right-handed reliever Robert Manuel, who had a couple of stints with the Reds in the bullpen. All told 56 games for Seattle for Valentin. That one hung up there, but he'll pop it high in the air. Here comes Smith. He'll haul it in for the first out. So Valentin retired, 1 away. Back to the top of the order, Drew Sutton. Sutton started the Reds scoring in the first with a double. He was sacrificed to third by Gonzalez. He scored on a ground ball out from Joey Votto. Reds led 1-0. If you joined us late, Johnny Gomes' homer made it 2-0 in the second. And that's it. Reds haven't scored since then. In fact, since the home run. A base hit by Phillips in the 4th inning and a base hit by Votto in the 6th. And then this base hit by Hannigan in the 8th. Strike. Now looking at that Bengals schedule this year, Chris, the Reds will still be playing in September when the Bengals open against Denver. Denver, Pittsburgh, Houston, Chicago, Baltimore, Cleveland, Detroit, Kansas City. Those are the home encounters for the Bengals this year. In the preseason, St. Louis and Indianapolis would come to Cincinnati on August the 27th and September the 3rd. The 2 road games will be August 14th and the 20th. New Orleans and New England.
Is there anything less compelling than preseason football?
I think it's kind of going by the boards with the new contract. They'll probably knock it down to maybe 2 preseason games instead of 4 and add.
I mean, other than the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, that's.
Don't get me wrong. I love NFL football. But when you're playing it in August and it's 95 degrees, those guys are dying out there. I can't wait for the cool breezes of October to finally play some football to count something.
I will gladly buy a ticket to a spring training game, but I mean, you couldn't give me a ticket to an NFL preseason game.
Although there are a lot of people that would disagree with us.
Sure.
A lot.
Two away, and here comes Alex Gonzalez. Sacrifice popped up and flied out.
Of course, the deal with most NFL franchises are probably like trying to buy tickets to an Ohio State season ticket holder pass. If you're going to do that, you've got to get the whole package. It means you're buying basketball seats, maybe some baseball, softball seats, whatever you want to throw in there. So, a couple of trips to the natatorium.
So if you're a season ticket holder, you get the preseason games too.
You got it.
We wish the best to Carson Palmer and the.
I have to say, though, late August is a lot better for tailgating than, sometime in December when you get freezing rain coming down. I give them that.
September.
I may just head down to that east parking lot just for a little tailgating action.
Jesse will get you space. September, October. That's tailgating time. 2 balls, 1 strike to Alex Gonzalez. Nice job, John Browdy, on the media guide, as usual. Outstanding. Check swing, fouled off. Doggone it, we spend hours up here looking for mistakes. You never find it from the former media director of the Cincinnati Reds, who works on that media guide each and every year. Our best Marvin Lewis and the Bengals this year. Popped up, Helton giving chase. He's there and he holds on. Well, the Reds threatening the 8th, nothing to show for it. Going to the 9th. Reds trail by 3. As they face the Colorado Rockies and enjoy a post-game concert from Grammy Award winner Stephen Curtis Chapman. For tickets, call 381-REDS or go to reds.com. So how many Bengal games will you go to this year, Chris?
Hope to go to a couple.
Reds have been blessed for many years to have great public relations directors. I mean, dating back to Jim Ferguson, it was great to see him at the ballpark last week. Good to see Fergie. He was back spending part of the year here in Cincinnati, then back down to Florida for the winter. He's smart.
I got to tell you, the Bengals games are fun. I mean, it's a party, and fortunately, it's only once a week. But they're a good time. There is no question about that. Of course, all sports in your hometown are better when your hometown team wins.
Yep.
And we hope they have a good year.
Best of luck to Marvin. Best of luck to Jack Brennan, who does such a great job as the public relations director of the Bengals as well. Here's Dexter Fowler, who's really come on the scene. You talk to Don Baylor, who's a great hitter in his own right, an outstanding hitting coach, the former manager, now back as a hitting coach in Denver, and he really likes the potential of this young man. They had penciled him in for AAA, but he's found his way onto the major league roster, and he steps in at 252, 4 homers, 27 knocked in over 300 at bats. So important at bats. And as Ted Williams used to say, I don't even want to evaluate a player until he gets 1,000 at bats. Don Baylor, you can see him. He's like a dad watching his young hitter at the plate right there. Little lengthy swing right now, but this kid can play some center field, Chris. Boy, can he steal a base too.
Well, he's a good athlete. There's no question. Interesting way he approaches things. You see Don Baylor really staring at him hard, but he gets his foot down. Watch how quickly he gets his right foot down. Trying to ready himself, get himself ready. Starts with a little bit of an open stance, and then he brings his right foot back around to kind of straighten up towards the pitcher's mound.
And this guy really is the reason why the Reds were able to work a deal for Willie Taveras. Taveras was the center fielder in Denver, and they figured within the next couple of years that Dexter would take over that spot.
Well, they non-tendered Willie Taveras.
Yep.
So it's not like they were inviting him back.
And you figure by next year, if you were to make an odds-on bet, I hope Fowler will take over that center field spot. They got good play from Fowler, Gonzalez, Ryan Spilborg too. Back to Seth Smith in the leadoff spot, facing Carlos Fisher. It's a pitch out, and this sails over everything, goes all the way to the backstop. The runner was not going. So the pitch out goes awry. And down to second goes Fowler.
You know, if you watch enough Reds baseball, you see the obstacles that face Dusty Baker on a nightly and regular basis. I mean, they call for a pitch out and you throw it to the screen. I mean, that's something that you see in instructional league. I mean, you see that about once every 10 years.
And Hannigan almost couldn't get to that one, so he'll come out and talk to Fisher and try to slow him down a little bit.
You know, for a guy that looks so good, he came in last inning to pick up for Daniel Ray Herrera. He recorded 2 strikeouts, an intentional walk, and then got a pop-up, and he just looked like he was dead on his control. And it looked like from the time that he went into the dugout and came back out, somebody flipped the switch the wrong way.
The newest Red bullpenner, Kip Wells, has started to loosen in the bullpen for Cincinnati. There's a strike. And Fowler, great speed at second. I mean, there was a good reason to pitch out. He's got 24 stolen bases. Great speed in scoring position with no one out here in the ninth. I mean, the road long enough as it is, the Reds trail by 3. And you know, Chris, they go over the scouting report yesterday when they talked about this Rockies team. Who's the one base stealer you have to worry about? And you talk to your bullpenners as well as your starters, and it is Fowler. So here's Carlos trying to speed it up to the plate, and there's a bouncer. Backhanded by Phillips. The flip will get him in time. Juggled by Brandon, but he barehanded it in time to get the play at first.
Boy, is this guy a talented athlete or what? I mean, unbelievable. He makes the backhanded play. It pops out of his glove, but he's able to barehand it, stop, turn, throw, and get him by a step.
Not conventional, but wow, what an athlete.
Man, oh man.
But the runner does get to third, so they get the ball to the right side. Runner at third. The Reds will have to bring the infield in with one out, and here's Barmes. Clint tonight robbed of a hit on a nice play by the third baseman Rowland. Struck out and then lined to center and hit by a pitch his last time up. Cardinals have beaten Houston 3-1. Chris Carpenter won his 10th tonight. Cubs lead Florida 6-5. They're in the 7th inning. Atlanta won already 4-3 over the Dodgers. Eric Lowe won his 11th. In the air to left. Tagging at third. Nick's coming in making the catch. The throw to the plate won't be nearly in time. It's a sacrifice fly, so a walk, a wild pitch, and a ground out. The Rockies do what they've been doing a lot of in the last month and a half. Push across an insurance run here in the 9th inning, and they lead it 6-2.
Well, you know, Barmes goes back to the bench with an 0 for 9, but he's got to feel pretty satisfied the fact that he's able to drive that run in right there. A huge run. Makes a 3-run lead into a 4-run lead.
Here's Helton. Todd stretched his hitting streak with a double back in the 4th inning. Flying out, doubled, bounced out, and lined into a double play in the 7th. And how good have the Rockies been since the first week of June? In fact, since June the 4th, they're 36-15. That's #1 in all of baseball. And against the National League Central, they've been like a steamroller. They've won 12 straight against National League Central teams. And the corner, and it's 2-1. Center field, Nix is there. Lance will squeeze it, but the Reds are down to their final 3 outs. To the bottom of 9 we go. Votto, Phillips, Rowland due up. Away from the basement guys. To enter, go to thebasementguys.com. Changes for the Colorado Rockies. Dexter Fowler stays in the game. He's in center field. Carlos Gonzalez moves from center to left, and into the game is the veteran left-hander just activated today after being picked up. Joe Beimel comes in. So Beimel will deal to the Reds with a left-handed swinger, Joey Votto, due to lead it off. The Reds fans have seen a lot of this guy. Bullpen ERA highest in the National League. Colorado trying to notch that down a few with their bolstering bullpen. They've added Betancourt, now they add Beimel.
And that's the reason why, George. You know, that's coming into tonight. Obviously, you know, when you're the second worst bullpen in the National League, you need help. And, you know, there were people in around Denver area that were clamoring for the Rockies to deal with the Blue Jays to see if they can't get Roy Halladay. You know, they could use all the pitching that they can get. But I think the more conservative approach is what they did, and they did a good job of it. You pick up Betancourt, who's a very good quality middle to late reliever, and Joe Beimel, always tough on lefties. He still has that Pittsburgh look, though, doesn't he?
He does.
The Berg.
That was when the Pirates would regularly have 3 left-handers, and of course that's when the Reds had a bevy of left-handed swingers, so you needed it in this division. Well, Beimel going to work here in the 9th. Votto, Phillips, and Roland due up. Joe Eat knocked in a run with a ground out in the 1st, grounded to 2nd, then singled to left in the 6th. 1 for 3 for Joe. Breaking ball, misses. There's only one area where the Reds outrank the Rockies in terms of individual areas of the game stats, and that's in the bullpen. The Reds are 4th in the league in earned run average in their bullpen. And as we mentioned, the Rockies are 15th in the league. So he pops it down the left field line, foul territory. Stewart runs out of room. I mean, the Rockies are 10th in the league in hitting, and that's come up measurably in the last month and a half. The Reds are 15th. The Reds are 8th in the league in homers, and the Rockies are 2nd in home runs. The Rockies starting pitching is 6th in the league at just about 4 earned run average, and the Reds earned run average is almost a run higher. They're 14th in the league going into play tonight. 1 ball, 2 strikes. That's a call, strike 3. He gets Joey Votto looking. Strikeout number 1 for Beimel. Before we get too far away from it, Chris, what a night for Ubaldo Jimenez. He stands to win his 8th. He pitched 8 tremendous innings.
He pitched a great ball game, George, and I'll tell you what, I was trying to think through all the really good stuff pitchers that the Reds have faced this year. Jake Peavy was nasty the day that the Reds saw him out there on that Sunday afternoon in San Diego. I know that Josh Johnson was very, very good when the Reds saw him down in Miami. But he has to rank among the top 2 or 3 as far as stuff that they have faced this year. And the fact that he was hitting the strike zone and the corners with his stuff, he was going to be tough to beat tonight. It was going to take a Herculean effort on the part of the Reds pitching staff, namely Homer Bailey, to be able to, you know, win this game. And they weren't able to get it done. But again, you look up at the scoreboard and you see 5 hits on the part of the Reds. They scored a run in each of the first 2 innings, and that was it.
Off the end of the bat, it'll look better than it will end up. It's a lazy fly ball. Gonzalez hauls it in and left. The Reds are down to their final out, and Scott Rowland will be that. This has been Scott Rowland's debut night as a Red. So far, he's 0 for 3. Came up with a fine defensive play in the 1st inning. Was greeted with a nice round of applause for this crowd of 23,452. Two away in the 9th. 6 runs, 8 hits, 6 left on base for Colorado. 2 runs, 5 hits, and 3 left on base for the Reds. Coming up right after this one concludes, we've got Jim Day and Jeff Pecoro standing by with the Reds Live postgame. So hang with us for a wrap-up of this and looking ahead to tomorrow. And a complete recap of this first night for Scott Rowland in a Reds uniform. Great to have you with us tonight. George Grant, Chris Welsh, Jesse Jackson up in the booth and down in the truck. Christian Roberts, our producer. Carl Patterson, our director. Matt Sigafus. Lauren White. And, of course, Kent Trainer. That's a bouncer to short, and that'll do it. The Reds go quietly in the 9th inning, so Beimel's first inning as a Rocky's a good one. Troy Tulowitzki and the Rockies give Jim Tracy his 601st victory in his career. His return to his